If you know how to read this building properly, I'm telling you, you're going to walk out and think, I feel like a changed man. And that's the intention. He's challenging you to teach you this ancient history. So this is really a temple in disguise. It masquerades as a house of government, but it's really a temple. And there are several features that indicate that. From the outset, you're introduced to one of the principal deities of the temple, which is this lady seated in the center. Now she's got military regalia, she's seated on a throne. The thing on her lap is the Roman symbol of authority called the fasces. It's where you get the word fascism from. Now another story in stone is here on the side, which is what got me down this rabbit hole many years ago, where I spotted out of the corner of my eye these two Egyptian sphinxes. Now, most Manitobans don't even know that they're there, but there they are on either side of this stunning building. Now, what's totally remarkable about them is that they bear an inscription on their chest. A hieroglyphic inscription which you cannot see from the ground, completely legible, only visible from the roof. He's not called the Golden Boy. His name was originally the Spirit of Eternal Youth and Enterprise. The Golden Boy is a kind of fictitious title that we gave to him about 25 years after the building was opened. And he is the god of alchemy. Hermes, the Hermetic tradition, is the god of alchemy. And those are the features that surround the dome. Earth, air, water, fire are the principal elements to make gold. And that's what we have here. This is water, which is that group of three at the base of the dome represented by the water jug. Right next to them is earth, and you can see that great plenum of earth behind them. And on the opposite side of the building are two other statuary groups which represent fire and air. So you have the four elements surrounding what's called the mystical fifth element. This building is built in a tripartite way, which means that part of the convention of temple architecture is that you need three separate rooms of increased order of holiness. A portico in which you would have objects that were apotropaic, objects that ward off evil at the entrance, an altar in the center, and then one room which is off limits to all other temple personnel except for the high priest. And that room is only open once a year, and in the Jewish calendar that's called Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, where the high priest goes into the Holy of Holies and utters the unpronounceable name of God, this lost name of God which Masons claim to have recovered. This chamber is the room of protection. And so the various objects in this room are meant to turn away evil at the entrance. For instance, like these two bison behind me. They are part of the language of ancient architecture, where thousands of years, even before the Great Pyramid, you had these two large horned bulls in front of the entrance. As in here, this perimeter of statues of lions' heads, also the same thing. Or even more strangely, if you look up, in the keystone leading into an even more sacred room is the head of Medusa. Now that makes no sense in terms of secular democracy. All of these objects combined are meant to turn away evil at the entrance. I'm going to show you how it operates in action. Now if we all turn in this direction, this is of course east. Behind us is west. So the sun rises in the east and it lets in beautiful shades of light into the building. Like for instance here. Now turn around. If you look in this section, you can see that it's currently bathed in light. These objects are filled with the power of the sun. But over here, if you look, they're not. Okay, now if you look over there, they're not. Now, but in the course of a day, as the sun enters into the building, it highlights each of these objects to ward off evil. All the way around, every single one of these. Now, that explains the inscription that I told you that's on the chest of those two embodiments of the sun god that face east and west. And as I said, what it reads is, the firm and everlasting manifestation of the sun god, the good God who gives life. Gives life to what? These amulets of protection, so that before we can enter into this sacred abode, we need to have evil warded off. As I told you at the beginning, that temples are tripartite. Portico with protection, an altar, and then the Holy of Holies, a room that nobody is allowed to enter except for the high priest. Now it sounds strange that Manitoba Legislative Building would have its high priest, and it does. He is the highest appointed official by the Queen, and this is his office. As you can see, it's the only room in the building that has this. Nobody is allowed to cross this threshold unless you are the high priest of the temple. And this high priest is the person who brings divine sanction to all God's laws. The dimensions of this room correspond perfectly to the biblical dimensions of the Holy of Holies of Solomon's temple. Now, that's insane. It took God, most people don't know this, more time to build the temple than the sun, the moon, and the stars, and the creation of Adam and Eve. Sun, the moon, and stars took one day, one verse. The creation of the temple, a whole chapter. We know all of the intricate details of all of the aspects of the temple. They don't make them like this anymore. This is the last of the Mohicans. You're not going to find this in any other major city. I've been to them. Even in Washington, D.C., they've got nothing on this building.